and welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all been happy, amazing and positive. It is so good to be back doing true crime again. Today I have a case that literally happened, I think it was like 6 weeks ago. So fresh, so new, and because it's so new, there isn't too much information out there just as yet. So I've tried to gather as much information as I possibly could online just to bring you guys as much details as possible. This is a case that honestly reminds me so much of the Turpin family case. And I remember when I was researching the Turpin family case, I was like, gosh, there could be so many other kids out there that could be getting treated the same way by their parents. You just don't think that it's actually happening though, like it almost seems like just a scary, like a thriller horror movie. You don't actually think that this could literally be happening right under our noses. And just to hear about another case like this, so similar to that one, is just mind-blowing, and it's so heartbreaking to say the least. I wanted to start off with my usual disclaimer that all the pieces of information that I'm going to be talking about today are found through the internet, either through news articles, YouTube, blogs, things like that. So I understand that not all pieces of information are going to be 100% accurate, but I've done my best to provide the most accurate information as possible. This is all information that you guys can find through the internet as well. Also, another disclaimer that all my true crime videos are to create domestic violence and family violence awareness. This is purely for educational purposes only, and I mean no harm or any form of disrespect to anyone involved in this video. So you may have recently heard about this case about Jennifer Wolfthal and her husband Joseph Wolfthal. Jennifer is a 41-year-old author. She actually recently just came out with a book called A Real Friend, which is a book about two best friends who are playing and they get into a fight. Before she was an author though, she was a teacher for 14 whole years. Jennifer had a degree in education where she studied at the University of Central Florida, and she went on to teach for many years. Like I said, she taught the 4th grade for about 8 years, and she would often encourage her love for writing onto the kids, and she would often read picture books to her kids in order to, give them a little bit of a push into the whole writing world. It's hard to believe that a teacher, especially teacher of such young kids, would be hiding such a sinister and evil side to her. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. Jennifer got married to a man called Joseph Wolfthal, who worked as an engineer. And the couple went on to adopt 3 young children through a private adoption agency. And together they lived in Florida in a town called Seminole. When you think of parents wanting to adopt kids, you think of them as people who love children and are very nurturing and are very kind and want to take on the responsibility of being a parent. And it's not like they adopted 1 child, they adopted 3. I don't know what their intentions were when they first adopted these children, but going through an adoption agency and things like that, it's not easy. You do have to meet a criteria. And for these parents, I guess it was easy to meet a criteria because she was a teacher, a trusted teacher. Joseph worked as an engineer, great money involved there. They just seemed like the perfect couple to go through the whole adoption process, but no one knew the underlying evil nature of these parents. What they did was absolutely disgusting. And as I unfold this story, I just want to give a trigger warning that there are a lot of gruesome details that involve children. So if you cannot handle information like this, please click out. I have a lot more lighthearted content that you could watch. Jennifer quit her job as a teacher and went on to homeschool her children. There's never been an explanation as to why she chose to homeschool her kids, but that's the route that she decided to take. And Joseph would work 10-hour days as an engineer. And because Joseph would be away for majority of the day working, Jennifer would be at home looking after the kids. On the 1st of January 2021, at around 2:30 p.m., an 8-year-old little girl was brought to the Advent Hospital in Winter Park by Joseph Wolfthal. She was extremely injured, so severely injured, she was unconscious and had to be put on a ventilator straight away. The little girl was Joseph's adopted daughter, and when he went into the hospital, he spoke to the nurses there and said that she was critically ill. There was no mention of any abuse or anything like that. All he said was that she was critically ill. And upon further examination, the doctors and nurses found that she had a swollen bump at the back of her head. Her mouth was bleeding. She had lacerations in her mouth. She had chipped teeth. And when the nurses and doctors asked Joseph what had happened, Joseph went on to say that the little girl was brushing her teeth too hard and she chipped a tooth. Now, it does not take a genius to figure out that that is very highly unlikely. And Joseph also told the nurses and doctors that his wife had informed him because she was bleeding from her teeth, the little girl suffered from vertigo. And because of this, she was wobbly and dizzy and she fell on 3 different occasions, hitting her head, once on a toilet and once on a wooden desk. Joseph said that he had not witnessed this firsthand, but this is just what his wife had told him. The doctors knew something was not right about this because they went on to find more injuries. They found scabs, open wounds that had been infected severely. She was suffering from sepsis. She had pneumonia in both her lungs. She had a staph infection. She was experiencing kidney and liver failure. She had bruised eyes. She had abrasions on her back, on her neck. She had bruises all over her body. You could tell that she was severely underweight for her age. She was malnourished and she had skin infections all over her body. The fact that this child was alive was a miracle. To have staph infection and to have sepsis and pneumonia and organ failure, like, I'm actually in shock as to how this child was still alive. They weighed the little girl and she only weighed 40 pounds, which in Australia we weigh by kilograms, and that is only 18 kilograms. As an 8-year-old. That is very much underweight for a child who is 8 years old. The staff at the hospital knew that this child was going to need weeks of treatment. This is something that could not be fixed overnight. The child was needed to be placed at the hospital for a long period of time to be completely healed. Seeing the state of the child, the staff grew extremely suspicious because this was not a child that was just sick. This was a child that was 100% going through something that nobody really knew about. This was a child that didn't have a voice to express what was really going on. They really did not believe Joseph's story at all, especially because of the nature of the injuries on the child. It was very obvious that the child was suffering from neglect and malnourishment. And so because of this, the staff called the police. The police arrived shortly after, and a child protective officer was already at the hospital. And that officer told the police officer that the child was brought in by the child's adopted father, and all that Joseph said was that the child was critically ill with no mention of abuse, and the officer was like, okay, I need to see this child. The officers saw the child and straight away knew that something really sinister had been going on behind closed doors. They spoke to Joseph and they just did not believe Joseph's story at all. They knew that they had to do further investigation. Joseph mentioned that there were 2 more children at their house. Because they found out there were 2 more kids at home, they needed to go to the house and investigate further. The police said that the child obviously was not injured through, off-balance falls. There was obviously so much more going on that obviously Joseph was not going to admit to. So authorities went to the family home, and straight away when they went inside, the officer said that they could smell ammonia, and they were very curious as to why the smell was so strong. What were they covering up? When the officers asked Jennifer, Jennifer said that she had just cleaned the house. I mean, your child is in the hospital, unconscious, very, very sick, injured. Why was your first priority to clean the house? Wouldn't you be extremely worried about your child? Wouldn't you try and be at the hospital? The officers were just like, something is really wrong. Like, something's weird about this couple. You know, there's something that they're not telling us. The child came in bleeding. Could you probably have been trying to clean up the blood to make yourself not look suspicious? Maybe she knew that the authorities were going to go over. So while the officers were at the house, they uncovered a lot more gruesome information. There was an 11-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy at the house who appeared to be severely injured and malnourished. It was very obvious that they were suffering from neglect as well. The kids did not look like normal kids. They had bruises. The police knew that they really needed medical attention. So they were removed from the house and taken into medical care straight away. As police were searching the house, they looked in the trash can and they found over 1,000 written paragraphs. And they thought that was really weird, you know, handwritten paragraphs that were in the bin. So one of the police officers grabbed the pieces of paper from the trash can and started to read them. And they had information about the punishments that the children would go through on a daily basis. The writing stated that the kids had to lay flat on their beds all day, not move, not say anything. They were not allowed to see anyone or even see each other. The kids were forced to write apology statements to their parents over and over again, hundreds of times. And they would make the kids stay in their rooms by their desk, either writing or exercising all day. The little boy said that there would be days where he would just be bound to his desk just writing because the parents made him. What the officers found at the house was enough for Jennifer and Joseph to be arrested on that day. But for some unknown reason, they were released. After the 9-year-old and the 11-year-old that were found at the house received medical treatment, which roughly took about 2 weeks, the police went on to interview these children. The 8-year-old girl was still in hospital receiving medical treatment, so she was not able to be interviewed by the police. So they just interviewed the other 2 kids. And upon questioning the kids, they told the police that Jennifer and Joseph would take turns beating up the kids with an object that they named as the whacker. The parents, which I don't even think I should call them parents, Jennifer and Joseph would beat the kids up so severely that they would start bleeding. And often they would hit the kids on the same spot over and over again until they had cuts and bruises. The 11-year-old girl said that she would be punished if she wet the bed because she was so afraid to ask to go to the bathroom. She would also get punished if she didn't eat what was provided to her, which was a disgusting mix of cereal, water, and vegetable puree. She would also be punished for not doing her squats that she got told to do every day. The kids went months without being able to shower. The 11-year-old girl said that she sometimes heard the shower curtain open and close and water running because the bathroom was right next to her bedroom, but she never really knew who was in there or really ever had a chance to have a shower. Jennifer and Joseph would put the door handles of the kids' bedrooms back to front so that the lock would be at the front so that the couple had control of when they could lock and unlock it. So they would lock the kids in their bedrooms, in their separate bedrooms, and they would either be forced to lay on the bed, exercise, or write. And that was it. And they would just be locked in their rooms for weeks at a time. The kids were fed only twice a day. And sometimes they wouldn't even get their first meal till 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Any other kids would have had like so many meals till, you know, from the moment that they woke up to 3 p.m. And these poor children were not being fed until 3 p.m. and only being fed twice, and not nutritious, good, healthy meals. They were, like I said, it was cereal, vegetable puree, and water, and that was it. The worst punishment that the kids went through, they said, was having cold water thrown at them while they were laying on the mattress. The mattress would be covered in plastic sheets with a pillow. They were not allowed blankets. And every night, the parents would come in and throw a bucket of cold water. The 11-year-old girl said that because the water would be thrown on the mattress would pool with water. So she would have to drink some of the water that pooled near her face so that she had space to breathe. Otherwise, her face would be in a pool of cold water. And the parents would put a box fan on the floor so that the water could dry off the mattress. The kids, I couldn't even imagine how cold they would be. They're already laying in a pool of cold water. On top of that, Jennifer and Joseph have placed a fan so that the cold air is like blowing on their skin. No blanket, nothing to keep them warm. And that's probably how the 8-year-old girl got pneumonia. Like I said, the kids were not allowed to communicate with each other. They only interacted with their parents, no other adults. The 11-year-old girl said that she would keep a tally in her head as to how many times she was able to interact with her siblings, which is so sad. They hadn't seen outside in years. Because of the beatings, the kids would have open wounds all over their body, and they would ask Joseph for bandages or band-aids to cover up the wounds, and Joseph would often just end up spanking them and did not provide them with any help in covering the open wounds. The 11-year-old girl told authorities that she did not want to go back to her parents. She said that every time she was being punished by them, they kept saying to her that she was continuously sinning. But she started to believe that she was actually sinning because the parents drilled into her head that she was a child who could not stop sinning. The kids would often pee in their pants or pee in the bed because they were so afraid to ask Joseph and Jennifer to go to the bathroom. They would rather have just peed themselves than risk getting spanked or hit or anything like that. They would just abide by what the parents would say because they were so afraid. But because they would pee their pants, they would also get a beating. So these kids could not escape from the abuse. If the kids needed to ask for permission to use the bathroom or, you know, communicate in any way with Jennifer and Joseph, they would have to ring a bell. And oftentimes when the kids asked to go to the bathroom, they said no, that they were not allowed. When Joseph was questioned, he said that Jennifer was the abuser and not him. He said that anytime that he tried to intervene and save the children from being hit, Jennifer would end up punching him in the chest or knocking him out to the ground or even locking him in the laundry as a timeout. And he said that he was fearful of his wife. But when the police asked the kids if Joseph was also involved in the abuse, the kids said that yes, he was. He would often stand around and never help the kids. He would just watch the kids being hit. So what Joseph said about trying to intervene or stop Jennifer from hitting the children, that was false. Once the 9-year-old and the 11-year-old had their medical treatment, they did not go back to the house, and they have now been placed in foster care. When the deputies asked the 11-year-old girl about what life has been like in that house, she completely broke down. It actually makes me like tear up, and to also like not know what life as a regular child would be like. The lack of trust that those parents have caused for these children could be immense. That's the only life that they've ever known, is abusiveness, violence, neglect, torture. The 11-year-old also said that she had been hospitalized quite a lot in such a short amount of time because of the injuries that she was facing. The 8-year-old girl had to be transferred to the pediatric intensive care unit where she still remains for treatment. I haven't seen as of yet whether she's been out. I mean, it has been over 6 weeks, so I don't know if she's out now. There hasn't been any further information about that, but I'm not sure as to what's going to happen to her when she does leave the hospital. Maybe she's also going to be placed in foster care as well. The doctors say that she is now in a stable condition, but she has a long way to go before she's fully recovered. The fact that they were able to have such a blessing in their lives, 3 beautiful blessings, and they completely destroyed that blessing and could have destroyed the lives of 3 innocent children, I think that deserves life imprisonment. So initially, like I said, Jennifer and Joseph were released when they were initially arrested. But upon further investigation and questioning the other 2 kids, the couple were arrested again. The first thing that Joseph said when he was arrested was, "Can I call my attorney?" Obviously, he has the right to call his attorney, but he then went on to say that he forgot the attorney's name. Joseph has been placed on a $210,000 bond and Jennifer has no bond. The couple are facing 3 counts of child abuse, neglecting children, false imprisonment, and also Jennifer is facing domestic violence charges based on what Joseph had told the police about her being physical with him as well. So apparently Jennifer and Joseph have filed for divorce. And Joseph has asked for sole custody of the 3 kids. It blows my mind. It really blows my mind. The fact that you can even think in your mind that you have a slight chance of getting sole custody of the kids. Like, is he delusional? Like, he's living in a fantasy land. Jennifer's book has been removed from all platforms. Apparently, the publisher has seized all sales. Jennifer's Instagram account has been removed and her website has been set on private. But I did have a look on Amazon whether the book is still for sale, and it's still for sale. I'll put a screenshot here of it. Like, why would you say that it's not on sale when it still is? I mean, I could go buy the book right now. Not going to, but it's still there. It's still up there. Authorities have told Joseph that if he does make bail, that he is to have no communication with Jennifer or the 3 kids. Jennifer is due in court on the 9th of March. So if there's any updates or anything like that after March, I will come back with a second part because I need to know how this unfolds. But for now, that is all the information that I've got because, like I said, this is a very new case. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a while since I've done a true crime video on my channel. I promise they will be more consistent now after, you know, going on the break that I went on. Now I feel rejuvenated. I feel good now and I'm ready to get back into the swing of things. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It helps me out so much. And let me know if there's any cases that you guys want me to talk about down in the comments below. I try to do cases that aren't out there as much, but I'm also open to do cases that have been quite popular in media attention as well. So let me know if you do have any suggestions. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please stay happy, please stay amazing, please stay positive, and I shall catch you next week. Bye.